Tonight on The Hub, who is the best in the West? With Phoenix up next in the Monster Energy Series, will Harvick continue to dominate, or is it all fair game? And the people's favorite, Dale Jr., he's back, but is he really back? After two disappointing results this season already and finishing 16th in Vegas, can the 88 really make his comeback? And drivers past and present weigh in on when is the right time to walk away from what they love. More to come. The Hub is rolling. Hello, everyone, and welcome to NASCAR Race Hub, sponsored by Polaris. I'm John Roberts, alongside of Bobby Labonte and Andy Petrie. And guys, when you say you're going to Vegas, you know one thing for certain: you're going to a racetrack that is completely unique, completely one of a kind.
Yeah, I love that racetrack. I like going out there this time of year, especially because you're looking for that warmer weather. I think they're going to get a little more than they bargained for this weekend.
Yeah,
but
definitely going to be warm.
I love that. They're going to be slipping and sliding, just like I like it.
Love that track.
But it's a dry heat when you're out there. Okay, in case you missed the news, NASCAR has stated that after a full review of multiple videos and discussions with both competitors and their respective teams, no penalties will be issued following Sunday's post-race incident in Las Vegas. NASCAR plans to meet with both Kyle Busch and Joey Logano prior to them getting on track tomorrow in Phoenix. And the Indianapolis Motor Speedway today announced that the Brickyard 400 weekend will be a two-day show. Monster Energy qualifying will follow the Xfinity Series race at 6:15 on Saturday, July 22nd. Kyle Busch, you may recall, has won the last two consecutive races at the famed Brickyard. Now, the numbers of this week's Phoenix race are just a bit unusual. They'll go 312 laps around the 1-mile oval for 500 kilometers. It's race number 4 of 36. Domination is a theme here lately as we crunch the rest of the Phoenix numbers.
The NASCAR Goes West Tour continues with a shootout in Phoenix Sunday. And history says this track may only be big enough for just one driver.
There's no better way to say it. Kevin Harvick is the man in the desert. Happy has 8 career wins on the flat 1-mile track, and 6 of those victories have come in the last 9 races. He also led a total of 1,484 laps in his career. That's the most anybody has ever led in Phoenix. In fact, he's the only driver to top the 1,000 laps led mark.
But check this out, Shannon. Since moving to Stewart-Haas Racing in 2014, he's been downright unstoppable. In the 6 races with SHR and crew chief Rodney Childers, Harvick has led 55% of the laps run in Phoenix, 994 to be exact. An unbelievable stat in itself, made even more incredible when you realize the second best driver in that time frame, Alex Bowman, sits 800 laps behind Kevin.
Wow. Top all this off with the fact that Harvick has an average finish of 1.67 in Arizona with the number 4 car. It's safe to say that the closer is pretty much the sheriff of the desert.
So who can put up a fight against Kevin this weekend? How about a trio of young guns? Joey Logano is the most recent winner in the Valley of the Sun, taking the win last fall. In the last 7 races here, driver 22 has the second best average finish at 7.0, nabbing 3 top 5s and 6 top 10s.
But Adam, you also want to keep your eye on sophomores Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney. Each driver finished in the top 10 in both Phoenix races in 2016 and have never finished outside the top 10 in any of NASCAR's top 3 national touring series here. That's 14 total desert duels without missing a shot.
So we've heard all about Harvick's domination on this mile track since being paired with Rodney Childers at Stewart-Haas Racing. But, gentlemen, the equation has changed somewhat now, Bobby, especially because of the new aero package.
Yeah, it definitely has. And obviously them changing over to Ford over the offseason. But, man, they've been so fast. They started off the year on the right foot. And I don't see how that's going to change when they get there. I mean, there's no doubt that they're going to be just quick when they roll off the truck. But the aero package is going to be different. You heard about testing. They weren't as fast as you thought. But I always kind of look at Harvick as being like, he's not going to show everything until he gets there for the race.
Yeah, that's the thing. I heard some guys from the test saying that he wasn't stellar, didn't show any blazing speed when they were testing out there. But what I've seen so far in Atlanta and Vegas is that they have speed. And You know what? Doesn't even matter. It's Phoenix, and I don't think it's so much about the cars. It's about Kevin. I think Kevin's just that good there.
Yeah, and he's been so close that he's very hungry. I mean, he's used to winning.
Yeah, well, he finished second a lot, but this year, I feel like he is on it right now. I mean, I know he hadn't won yet, but I believe he is on it.
Yeah, one slipped away from him in a bad way a couple weeks ago. Well, let's take a look at the importance of stage wins, and Happy Harvick is the poster child for that right now. He's going to be the one that shows you the importance of doing that with the points that he has accrued by winning the stages. He also earned 8 points in the duel at Daytona. This guy is showing us the importance of these stage wins and what it could mean for a championship run.
Yeah, now they're getting something for those early, how they run the early part of the race. If they qualify good, they get up there and they lead some laps, and then now they've got a stage that's going to end in the first quarter of the race. They get something for it, and I think that's great. I think that's something that it's definitely kept me more interested watching these stages.
Yeah, it's definitely more exciting. And I know as a driver, you know, at the end of the race, you want to get everything you can. Well, now they have 3 chances to do that. And you see these guys take that chance to get one more spot because, as we see, it's paying off. But as you get closer to the end of the season, towards the end, you'll see more people going after it for more points. So you see it already happening. So it's just going to get more exciting as the season goes on.
You know what I love about it?
I know what you're wondering, Andy.
These drivers always say that they can't go any more than 100%, right? They can't drive any hard, no matter what they offer, no matter what the rules are. But I've seen it. There's something you guys can do. You can go a little bit harder when you need to.
And what's your point?
Especially when you want to win a stage.
They're not really going 100%, are they?
It's points and money.
Yep.
Points and money. That's what you get.
That other gear.
And championships as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're seeing so far this year. So for NASCAR, we can definitely say mission accomplished as of right now. Well, the general question these days when you head to the Phoenix Raceway is who, if anyone, can beat Kevin Harvick. And although 312 laps can go by in a hurry, a lot can happen along the way.
Phoenix, really, to be successful, you've got to have a car that really turns the center very good.
You know, getting down on the apron and going 3 or 4 wide, and then having to be, you know, down to 2 wide, getting into the corners. So
both ends of the track are you know, quite different.
I think there is some more off-throttle time, which is good. And
1 and 2 being a, you know, pretty tight arc, and then 3 and 4 being a pretty open, sweeping corner.
it's really just having a good balance both ends of the racetrack, and primarily getting off of turn 2.
So there's really no perfect setup, just finding that happy medium, a good balance there.
looking forward to see what that brings to Phoenix.
Okay, we heard their opinions about what makes it so tough. Bobby, what made it so tough for you?
I agree with all of them. There is a lot to it. But, you know, Phoenix is one of those places. I always love going to Phoenix. I just don't have any wins there. Like Atlanta, I love going there and got to win. But, like, you know, it's just one of those places you go to that's just really fun for me as a driver. It's a fast, short track, and you just get to spend a lot of time. Yeah, it's a rhythm, fast, smooth. You know, turns 3 and 4, I thought, were always a challenge because you never practiced on the apron. But in the race, it seemed like Tony Stewart and I would just be at the bottom of the racetrack. So you get your car to turn, you get tied off of turn 2. There's so many different challenges coming off turn 4. It's such a fun place to run. As far as a driver, you just really get a good rhythm going, I guess. And, you know, to me, I think that's what a lot of guys do, but it's a fast place.
I think it is a driver's racetrack, but it's a challenge for the setup because no other track looks just like Phoenix. It doesn't, you know, it has this tight 1 and 2 with some banking. Then you got that big, wide 3 and 4 was pretty flat. But what I like about it is that it brings in aero, it brings in, you know, the shocks and springs and some of the mechanical grips things that it does, and the driver. So I think it really does challenge the whole race team. And so if you're successful there, it means that your team's in pretty good shape.
Yeah, and pit crew as well, because sometimes you don't have a lot of pit stops. This race can go by in a hurry, so you don't have a lot of chance to adjust on the car.
It is pretty short, you know, 312 kilometers.
Yeah, it's a short race, and track position means so much.
It really does, and it's harder to pass there than it ever has been. And so the new aero package, we'll see how it's going to be. But I feel like it's going to be a challenging track for the drivers and the crew to put it all together.
Yeah, we're set up for another great weekend of racing, though. Now, up next, we want you to join the conversation and get involved in our Connect Live questions. First up, will one of the 3 guys who have won this season win again this weekend in Phoenix? Log on to foxsports.com/vote and let us know. When we come back, Dale Jr. is back on the racetrack, but a slow start to the year has the 88 team scratching their heads. Is it time to hit the panic button for Junior Nation? On the flip side, Dale's HMS teammate, Casey Kane, has been a surprise out of the gate in 2017. Can his good fortune continue in the desert? Hub rolls next. Welcome back, everyone. NASCAR Race Hub is presented by Polaris. One of the world's richest men and NASCAR's most popular driver got together for a couple laps around the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg rode shotgun with Dale Earnhardt Jr. this week to get to know a little bit more about the NASCAR community. It's part of the CEO's tour across America. After a ride along, he took the wheel himself and was coached around the track by Earnhardt. So, guys, just imagine the combined income in that car as they came around. Andy and Bobby with us today on the Hub. Gentlemen, it's 3 races in. And if you look at what's gone on with Dale Earnhardt Jr. so far, you know, everybody was very excited that Dale's back. But is he really back after those finishes?
Well, I mean, he's back on the track, and after Daytona, I mean, the beginning part of Speed Weeks, he looked exceptional. I mean, I thought, wow, he's really back with a vengeance. He's going to come back. But then, you know, he got in a wreck. We could see that. But he did lead 8 laps. It wasn't time to really make a judgment because it's Daytona. But when we got to Atlanta, in Las Vegas, I just didn't see a lot of anything memorable out of that team. I think that they're lacking some of that speed and intensity they had before he had to step out of the car. And I don't know if it's the time away and the team is maybe, you know, back, you know, trying to gel again. But I don't see that he's back to the form that he needs to be and try to win races.
Yeah, you would like to think that Dale Jr. would have come back strong after his injury last year. And obviously these 2 finishes are not what he expected. They are, if it wasn't Dale Jr., might not think nothing of it. But at the same time, you look at it and you go, well, is he not back yet? What's wrong? But, you know, I think that they've got off to a slow start. But there's more to the story than just Dale Jr. getting off to a slow start. You think of all of Hendrick Motorsports. I mean, totally with Jimmy Johnson, they don't have the finishes that pretty similar to what Dale Jr.'s had. You know, Chase has been a lot better. Casey Kane's been a little bit better this year than he was last year. So there's a lot more to it, I think. And I think it's going to take them a little bit to figure out the new aero package. They might be a little bit behind this year. Ford's coming on strong. They lost 4 cars that they could bounce stuff off of the last few years. So, you know, maybe that's not all Dale Jr., but a lot of it, you know, could be with the whole program.
I'm not worried about this guy. This guy's going to figure it out. They are going to be a contender when it comes time. But the one thing he is doing, he's leading laps in every race he's led. So I see him kind of on offense. I don't see that with Junior. I don't see anything that tells me that they're almost there, or they're all, you know, they're going to jump out there and win races. I know that's going to happen, but I'm not so sure about Junior. I don't see that formula. I think they have to get somewhere with it.
But as a driver, when you start off the year a little bit slow like they have, I mean, you always, they're working on it. They're trying to figure out what the problem might be. You know, the new aero package might not be to his liking right now. They got to find those little tweaks that they can do in the rule book to make it a little bit better. Because we all know that you can't drive Jimmy Johnson's setup.
I don't know if anybody can drive Jimmy Johnson's setup.
So, and this might not be the right thing for him, but, you know, they're probably trying to figure it out. And, I mean, I know that they're just working it out.
All they have to do is go look at the 24. They're running pretty good.
I know,
but you know,
they wish they were better.
Yeah, when you look at Jimmy Johnson, almost every year it seems like there's a couple of hiccups like this, and people start saying, "Oh my goodness, what's wrong with the 48?"
I'm not worried about him,
and there's nothing wrong with the 48.
No, we're worried about Junior because it's Junior, but they can get back. It's just taking them a while.
He's just not there yet.
Yeah. And traditionally, Junior and the 88 team have always started quickly, and then people tend to say, "Is this going to be the year for Junior?"
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. I mean, you know, the fans want to see that car running up front and contending for wins and being in victory lane. And they have to get a little bit better. And I think that once you know, it's just going to take a little time. Being out of the car that long has to have hurt Junior.
Yeah. Well, there's maybe this week's little hot laps around
Could
Charlotte.
Be. You know, that 88 car. Remember how that 88 car ran at Phoenix last fall?
Yeah. Yeah.
This will be a telltale.
It'll be a time thing. I think that he's back physically and mentally. It's just putting all the chemistry back together that they lost for 6 months.
Yeah, and we remember the season is very young. We're only a couple races into this thing. Now, one of the other Hendrick Motorsports veterans, Casey Kane, had a very rough season last year. Casey, though, is off to a solid start in 2017. After 3 races, he has an average finish of 7.7, and he's already led more laps this year than all of last season. Our Alan Cavana has more on the turnaround of the 5 team.
John, Casey Kane, crew chief Keith Rodden, off to a great start in 2017. And Keith, I know last year there were times you were not performing as well as you want to. What do you attribute this improvement to?
Well, I really feel like at the last really 12 races of the year, we got way stronger as a team. We kind of got our cars better. We got where Casey needed them to get the feel he wanted. And then this season, we've had some changes to the aerodynamics on the race car, which in turn kind of changed how he drives the car. And I think that's kind of set us up for more success after, we knew what we needed to do to get better into this season. And now his driving style with this setup is really paying off for us.
Last two races, some of the best racing we've seen has been when we're approaching the end of a stage, different strategies for different drivers. Are you still learning as a crew chief as we go race by race?
Well, the biggest thing I'm learning is that we need to qualify better, and we need to start to race better because we're giving up way too many points in these stages. We're looking forward to getting better in qualifying, starting to race closer so we don't have to work on it. We had a couple problems with a vibration and this and that and the other, and you're going to have problems through the year. But the great part about the stage system is that we can make up points. And so once we start doing that, then you're really going to see us rise through the point standings.
Looking toward Phoenix, 2 races there last year, best finish of 13th. What is the challenge of Phoenix this weekend?
Well, I can't believe we only finished 13th. We were really good at Phoenix last year. Unfortunately, in the first race, we lost a right front tire kind of late in the race. And in the second race, we were so fast in the long run. We just need to be faster on the short run. And as you see, you end up with a short run at all these races. So we're really concentrating on that. We're concentrating on qualifying better. We're concentrating on that 20-lap speed. We had the 60, 70-lap speed from lap 20 to lap 70. We need to get the speed through the whole run. And I think that's going to pay off in the stages, and that'll pay off at the end of the race.
Hot start so far to 2017. They're going to try to keep it going this weekend, John.
Alan, thank you very much. Now, based on Casey's performance in the first 3 races and what we just heard from Keith Rodden, we're going to play a little game now called Confident, Confused, or Concerned. And the question is, will Casey win a race? Guys, are you confident, confused, or concerned that will happen this year?
Well, I say confused most of the time. But in this particular case, I'm concerned that Casey Kane will be able to win a race. I was really encouraged by what I heard from Keith Rodden about where they finished up last year and how they started off this year and how maybe this rule package is playing into his hands a little bit because Casey might like a car that has a little less downforce and slides around a little bit. The problem I've got is there's always that one guy that's going to be able to beat him. I don't think they're going to be able to win a race, at least from the point where I see him now, performance-wise.
Yeah, Andy, I agree with you. I mean, I am concerned with the same thing with you are. And what they talked about there is that, and I love Casey Kane, the way he drives. He's a smart driver, but, it's a longer run car. He's a longer run driver. Gets better as the run goes on. But, when these races come down to a 3-lap dash or a short run, he might not be quite as good at it, But I do believe the package is better, so I think they'll have confidence as the year goes on, but I'm not sure it's enough to go for the win. At the end, if it comes to a green, white, checkered or a 10-lap run, he might not be there because that one guy is going to be out there with that short run.
But the performance is definitely there.
Yeah. So what about the next question, guys? Will Casey make the playoffs? Confident, confused, or concerned?
I'm pretty confident that that's going to happen because the Hendrick organization as a whole is so deep, and I believe what I see with the performance improving with the 5-car, and I think they'll be able to carry that consistency and momentum all the way through to the cutoff, and they'll make the playoffs easily. Now, what they do after they get into the playoffs is another question.
Yeah, same thing. I'm concerned that he won't win a race, but I'm also confident because the way they are running, I'm not sure of that, but I know they'll make the playoffs. I agree with you. I think they'll be confidently in the playoffs because the whole package that he's running right now that NASCAR is out there with the package is just really going to be in his favor, I think, as the time goes on, and they'll get a little bit better with chemistry and make those cars better.
And by the time they get to the playoffs, maybe they figured out how to get that car to victory lane.
Yeah,
that's what they'll have to do when they get there.
I hope we're wrong here.
And yeah, exactly. But certainly a huge year for that team and that driver in Casey Kane. And race fans want to test your fantasy knowledge against us allegedly talented ones here on FS1. Be sure to join Fox Fantasy Auto Racing. Here's how it all works. Be sure to assemble your own racing team and compete for weekly prizes. It's free, so sign up now at foxsports.com/fantasy. Next, we want to hear from you, the fans. 3 races, 3 winners. Who could be the first repeat winner in 2017? Weigh in at foxsports.com/vote. And is there cause for concern in the Chevrolet camp? They've led 139 laps this season, but the highest Chevy finisher in the first 3 races might surprise you. That's next on The Hub.
The gas and make it roll.
Son of a man, you did it.
Kurt Busch wins the Daytona 500. Wow. Did we just do that? Keselowski.
You can coast from here. Hell of a job.
Brad Keselowski wins the Folds of Honor Quick Trip 500.
Yes, sir. Thank you, everybody.
Truex digging hard on the inside.
Hell yeah!
Truex is money in Las Vegas.
Mark Bush Jr., you are the man.
3 races down in 2017, and we have had 3 different winners. But notice one thing in the group of 3. 2 Ford wins and 1 Toyota. Chevrolet has yet to make a trip to Victory Lane this year. So we're now going to bring in our Connect Live poll. You can weigh in at home at foxsports.com/vote. Which 2017 winner will get a second victory this weekend in Phoenix? Now, guys, your choices are the drivers who have won so far, but you also have the option that none will be able to repeat. So, guys, let the debating begin.
I'm going to see if I can persuade the voters a little bit. I'm all about momentum, and I've always been that way, and positive momentum means a lot. This 2 car has, should have won 2 races in a row as we speak. Now, I think they missed that race last week. I think they're going to carry that momentum. They're going to possibly be the first one of these 3 to win a race.
So should we read into what the fans are saying right now when it says none of the 3? Are they doing that just because of Harvick?
I think so. I'm not looking at the screen over there.
Oh, I'm cheating. I'm looking.
But I remember I didn't sleep during that first segment talking about Harvick and all of his accomplishments at Phoenix. So I'm going to go with other.
I know Harvick's going to be good there, other, but he's got some bad mojo going right now. This guy's got positive mojo.
He almost won Atlanta.
2%, say Kurt Busch.
Yeah, he was fast.
1%? No love for Kurt Busch. That's a track he's won at before.
On Keselowski.
You're not really having much other. And other is where the fans are going right now. Let's close the poll and see what we get. 61% say other, and a lot of
I think it has a Harvick in parentheses.
I think it's a Harvick.
Yeah, it's a 4 in that.
Okay. Our next collect Live question coming up in a moment, but first, a little setup. Since the start of last season, these drivers have had the most runner-up finishes, and what may surprise you is the guy tied for the most with Kyle Busch. It's Kyle Larson. He's been the runner-up in 3 of his last 4 races. He led on the last lap of the Daytona 500. So our next Connect Live question, will Kyle Larson be Chevrolet's first winner of the season? We took Kyle and the guys who are highest in points next for the Chevrolet camp, and also threw in champ Jimmy Johnson just because we have to throw him in. Will be the first winner for Chevrolet this season. Will it be Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Paul Menard, or reigning champ Jimmy Johnson? The votes are open. What do you gentlemen think?
Sentimental favorite here for me is Paul Menard. He started his career with me, so I'm kind of pulling for him, but that's with my heart. I think my head tells me that this guy is going to be the one to do it. I think Kyle Larson has been, look at these finishes. I mean, good Lord, look. And a couple of these should have been first. I mean, you look at Daytona and you look at Atlanta, they should have been first place finishes had things worked just a little different for him.
Yeah, no, obviously he's finished the year off strong and he started the year off strong. So, I mean, I think Kyle's a great favorite for that. But I do think Chase Elliott is on the verge. I think that he has everything he has going for him right now. I think that Hendrick Motorsports is going to come out a little stronger as every race goes on. So I'm going to say that Chase is probably the next guy. But it's hard to look at this and say this against him. But I do think Chase is right there at his heels too.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising when you look at that, you go back to last year, just how solid this team's been. I mean, they are right knocking on the door to win not just a race, but a lot of races.
Yeah, different racetracks.
Yeah, so also let's not forget that we want to try to sway the vote a little bit here. As you look at your champion, your reigning champion, Jimmy Johnson, he's down a little bit on the votes, but let's remember, this is a pretty good racetrack for Jimmy. And there's not really a bad racetrack anywhere, but this is a pretty good racetrack for Jimmy. Just trying to sway the vote a little bit.
The only reason I think the voters are not going with Jimmy Johnson is the stats we saw earlier. He's just not been putting the numbers up right now. They're going to get it fixed. I don't think they can fix it overnight, and they'd almost have to do that to win this week. But this guy here's got it going on.
Yeah. Well, the vote is closed. The fans don't agree with us, but that's not the first. Chase Elliott, by 40%, they say is going to be that Chevrolet driver that breaks them into victory lane this year. Thanks a lot to the fans for playing along with us. And Saturday, NASCAR Goes West continues under the sun in Phoenix. The green flag drops for the Xfinity Series at 3:30 Eastern on Fox. Then it's the NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series presented by Polaris Ranger Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern on Fox. It's Thursday, so let's have a little Throwback Thursday trivia. Can you guess which drivers have won for Joe Gibbs Racing at Phoenix? The answer might surprise you. And the sudden retirement, or not by his standards, of Carl Edwards sparked the conversation around the NASCAR garage of when is the time right? Some past and current drivers will weigh in. It is time to fire up the Race Hub time machine. We take you back 5 years, March of 2012 at Phoenix. Denny Hamlin was in that familiar FedEx number 11, and he led the final 59 laps of the race to claim his first ever win on the mile oval in the desert. Now, that day, Denny beat out Mr. Phoenix, Kevin Harvick, who, not surprisingly, led the most laps. Now, the victory, somewhat surprisingly, was and remains just the second ever for Joe Gibbs Racing in Phoenix. The only other triumph for JGR on the mile came way back in 1999, and that, of course, was at the hands of Tony Stewart. That win also was just one of two for Toyota at Phoenix. And Phoenix is the second stop of NASCAR Goes West, which is presented by Toyota. Ready, set, go west. And while they're in Arizona, drivers have been taking in sights. Oak Creek Canyon sits between the cities of Flagstaff and Sedona. The highway through the canyon has a series of hairpin turns and has been recognized by Rand McNally as one of the top 5 most scenic drives in America. The canyon sits about 2 hours north of the Phoenix Raceway. Well, NASCAR isn't the only thing that goes west on a regular basis. Each year, thousands of Americans head west to start the next chapter in their lives and retire. Most folks typically know when the time is right, but when is it time to hang it up for a race car driver? Carl Edwards got us thinking about that when he made his announcement earlier this year.
It's a risky sport. I'm aware of the risks. Those risks are something that I want to minimize. I'm stepping away from full-time driving in the Cup Series. The timing for me to do this is now.
I think my reaction was, like most people, just shocked.
It was a surprise. I think it was a surprise to everybody.
I was shocked and surprised.
Surprised. I really was surprised. He's a young guy, and he's on top of his game.
I called him straight away and asked him if it was April 1st or something, if I had the calendar wrong. Kind of shocked, but then not shocked. You know, he's been at the grind for a long time. I think he did full-time Xfinity and Cup for 7 years.
We all thought that he was going to outwork us out, all of us, backflip us all. I thought he was going to go into his 50s like Mark Martin.
A lot of people were 50 years old before they retired or something like that. But most of them didn't start racing until they was 20, 25 years old. My dad didn't start till he was 35. I was 21 years old and never been in a race car.
All these drivers that are coming into sport started when they were 5 years old, 6 years old. I didn't start driving cars until I was 15, 16 years old. By the time they're 35 years old, they're going to have 30 years of driving experience.
Almost everyone in our sport has been racing since they were, like for me, 8.
Drivers are getting into the sport younger and younger right now. You've got Eric Jones and Daniel Suarez. They're in their early 20s right now, and they're going to be full-time Cup competitors like I was. So I've been here since I was 19.
When I was 37, I was probably right in the middle of my prime. I never thought about retiring. I figured someday that, you know, I'd have to quit, but that never came up till maybe the last couple of years of my career.
There's no way. At 37 years old, I never even thought about getting out of the car. At 37, I was kicking butt and taking names, and I was just getting it done, so I never thought about it.
I think early retirement could be a trend among NASCAR drivers just based off the salaries that the drivers make now. You know, you can pretty much say that by the time you're 40, 42, whatever, you may have enough money in the bank to live the rest of your life on.
Everybody's got a different concept of how much money they need or how much they want.
As you start making more money, you start acquiring more things. You start building up a lifestyle, and that may be your motivation to keep racing longer. The drivers that make, you know, really good money, you do that for 10 years, and that's, you know, all of a sudden, it's a lot more than anybody else before your time could have done it for 20 years.
Pearson, Yarborough, Baker, Allison, in our careers, there wasn't that much money. I mean, it took me 15 years to win the first $1 million, and I'd already run 2 or 3 championships.
I don't think they had that opportunity years ago. I mean, yeah, you could throw in a Ned Jarrett or somebody like that and said, you know, I want to be in my family and do something else. The sport's dangerous. But people just didn't have that opportunity to walk away from the sport like some of the successful ones today are able to.
Families are becoming younger and younger more and more.
I've seen a lot of kids and family at the racetrack, more so I feel like today than I've ever seen. I think that's also weighing into some of the decisions.
It is very draining, and it does take away from family time because they can't always travel.
The work-life balance is heavily weighed towards work, and it does make you think about what you're missing. There's that sacrifice that comes along with what we do.
He goes to the outside as Edwards goes.
The fact of getting hurt, sometimes you may want to just kind of take a step back.
I could get hurt in doing this kind of stuff and not be able to enjoy the rest of my life.
You know, the sport seems to be much safer today, but then we see what happened with Dale Earnhardt Jr. You know, he has a head injury. Everybody stands back and goes, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on here? If this could happen to him, it could happen to any of us. But you can have a longer career with potentially less injuries.
NASCAR drivers tend to have longer careers than most people, and we do face burnout and different things. It's a demanding schedule for us.
I got to where it was just a job, and I wasn't having fun. Finally, I woke up one day and I said, you know what, I'm tired. Not physically, I'm mentally tired of being on the road all the time, so this is it. And I was in a position I could do that, and so I did it.
I started getting asked about retirement long before I was thinking about it. It wasn't on my radar until probably 5-6 years ago. The criteria for me were pretty simple. How competitive was I? How healthy was I? And was I enjoying what I was doing? The sport has grown and evolved in a way where people, if they choose to, do have the ability to step away at a younger age.
40 probably could be the new 50.
It definitely is a trend I think you'll see more so than guys trying to go to 50 years old. It's just not going to happen quite like it used to.
Very interesting to hear all those different opinions. But when you go back to what started us out in this conversation, Carl Edwards, even a few races in now, it's still almost difficult to wrap your hands around the fact that Carl's not in this sport anymore.
Yeah, what was so surprising was the timing of it. I mean, he didn't say 10 races before the end of the last year, say, I think this is going to be the last year. You just never heard anything about it. But I know when I started in the Cup Series in '93, there was, I think, 28 races. Then it went to 32, and they added tracks, went to 34, 36, and then the competition level and all that stuff. So for me personally, you know, it changed a lot because, you know, a few weekends at home paid off a lot. You know, and the money is one thing you'll talk about, but I do believe that, you know, the burnout that you experience through all that is key in what people are going to look at today about, you know what, I've done this for X amount of years. It might be time for me to give it up a little sooner than before because it is a lot of burnout.
Yeah, it's a grind. It's the longest season in professional sports by far.
I have a hard time believing that Jeff Gordon's retired. Yeah. And now here seriously, he was too good. He was you know, and then here comes Carl Edwards. I'm like, what? I can't hardly get this in my mind that this is the time for those guys to hang it up. Because in my time, you know, when I was a crew chief, I was actually Harry Gant's crew chief, and he was in his 50s, and we were winning. I mean, these guys can still do it. I don't really understand. I think it's 100% financial. They could not make this kind of decision if they didn't have a lot of money stored away and go, well, you know what, I don't have to do this anymore. Back in the 80s, 90s, those guys had to race just to eat and make their payments and have a nice house or whatever they want. You know, it's a lot different today.
And there you see the oldest drivers to win a race. But back to the subject of money, I think this statistic really speaks volumes that if you look at the all-time money earning list in NASCAR, Reed Sorensen is ahead of Richard Petty.
There you go.
That does show exactly what you talked about. I mean, there's definitely the money part does make a change, makes your life differently.
And those walls were made out of concrete back then too. Yeah. They still hurt when you hit them, but not as much as they did back then. And those guys kept racing just because they had to make the money.
Yeah, exactly. Well, a lot of the younger and mid-age drivers we have right now still have a lot of racing in them. We hope they're around for a long time. While NASCAR goes west, some of the drivers go off the grid. Really, Xfinity Series driver Brendan Gaughan takes us on a wild ride, and it's a lap around the Glen like you've never seen before. Some slipping and sliding is coming up. Welcome back, everybody, to NASCAR Race Hub, presented by Polaris. The NASCAR Goes West Tour kicked off in Las Vegas last week. We hit Phoenix next and then California. Rather than travel back and forth to homes on the East Coast, many drivers opted to stay out west. And when your teammate is Brendan Gaughan, who's from Las Vegas, you know you're going to have some fun. Brendan took us along for a little ride this week.
Start your engine!
When I grew up, we didn't have these. Now, we get to go play with these things. I mean, and these things probably handle as good as the very first Class 10 car that I ever drove. This is where the Gauns grew up. My dad raced in the desert. My brothers, they raced in the desert. We raced. In the end, I will race till I'm 80 years old. I do not care. I will be out in the deserts right here racing as long as I am physically possible because racing is what I love to do. Whether it's the desert, whether it's NASCAR, it's a passion that is a ton of fun. And in the end, you'll find me out here playing it regardless.
So clearly all the RCR guys had a lot of fun out west this week. You can see more of their adventure during the Xfinity race Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Now, guys, you spent a lot of time racing out west. There wasn't that West Coast swing then at the time, but still, did you make the most out of being out there? Did you have some fun?
Yeah, one time I remember we went, when Schrader was driving for me, we left Vegas and went up to Cook City, Montana, and rode snowmobiles. First time I'd ever done that. It was really neat.
And you did it with Schrader.
Yeah, that
speaks volumes in and of itself.
But the first time I went out west was actually as a tire changer for Darrell Waltrip. It was my first trip of being on a pit crew. Never changed a tire in my life, mind you. And we're going all the way to Riverside, California. And when we didn't practice pit stops, and I'm telling you, I was so nervous we'd get out there. And the first pit stop, we qualify on the pole. And then Junior Johnson, he's the jack man. He holds up 4 fingers. And I'm telling you, I could have thrown up right there on pit road. I'll never forget that West Coast trip. That was my first.
Did you get the tire on?
We won the race, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, we made it work.
Then all's well that ends well, right?
Throw up.
Yeah.
So, well, I got a similar story. I went snowmobiling with the Petties one time while we're between races out there, and I mean, I thought I broke a shoulder for sure, but I survived. I didn't do that. But anyway, I mean, we had a blast. So there is sometimes you can do that. But to go along with your story, the first time I went was 1982. I drove a tractor trailer with Bud Crawford and Steve Meal.
All right.
All the way to Riverside. And I'm 18 years old.
They let you drive?
I'm driving this thing. And I'm like, because they're too sleepy and they were fighting against each other. So I drove all the way from California.
That's a long
Phoenix,
road.
All the way into Riverside.
That is something you do when you're 18. Now, the Dash for Cash is back. The first event under that name is this weekend. And it's a big deal for the Xfinity Series drivers. Not only are there bragging rights to be had, but even by driver standards, it's a pretty good payday as well. So here are the drivers doing double duty this weekend. Only drivers running for the championship in Xfinity are eligible for the cash, so these guys cannot. But they are able to run in the race because they have less than 5 years of experience in NASCAR's top series. Ryan Blaney makes his 2017 debut in the series for Team Penske. None of these guys have won in the Xfinity Series at Phoenix. Now, the race is live on Fox Saturday afternoon at 3:30 Eastern Time. Catch all the action on your local Fox affiliate. Now, sometimes they say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas and doesn't quite apply all the time, such as the case for Joey Logano and Kyle Busch, or does it? Could we see carryover? We'll discuss. Well, here's another thing we know for sure about Sunday's Monster Energy Series race in Phoenix. It's going to be hot. Forecasters have the temperature for race day. Check it out, gentlemen, 95 degrees, and I don't really care if it's a dry heat or not. It's still hot at 95. That is scorching, and folks, pack your sunscreen. It's going to be hot out in Phoenix, but it's going to be great racing as well. Now, in complete contrast, we give you today's Social Garage. This video is courtesy of the folks up at the Watkins Glen International Raceway. They tweeted that they couldn't let the winter storm hold them back from a good time, so they took a snowy lap around the Glen. Parts of upstate New York received nearly 2 feet of snow this week. Guys, it looks like a lot of fun.
It does.
Yeah.
I like that.
It'd be cool to have like a snowmobile race or
match
something.
race
Up
there. Put you guys out there with some snow tires.
Yeah. I think I'd be better in that truck.
If you're cold and snowed in, fear not. All you have to do is tune into FS1 on Friday, and we'll warm you up with all the action from Phoenix. Coverage starts at 1 p.m. Eastern Time with Xfinity Series practice. And, of course, we'll all be watching these two drivers, Kyle Busch and Joey Logano. After Sunday's race in Las Vegas, this altercation broke out when Kyle confronted Joey. In case you missed the news yesterday, NASCAR said that after a full review of multiple videos and discussions with both competitors and their respective teams, that the incident does not warrant any further action. NASCAR will meet with Kyle and Joey prior to practice on Friday in Phoenix. So we've probably heard just about everybody's opinion so far this week on what happened there. Bobby, now it's your turn. What's your opinion on this?
Fight?
It was a fight. Yeah. Why do I get to go first?
I did. You're on the hot seat again.
Oh, yeah. I've watched that several times and, watching it again here. And that's good. It's all good. Nobody got fined. In reality, it was racing at the end of the race. It was a lot of hard battle. At the end, going through the checker flag. So
here's the incident.
Yeah, that happens, and I think that unfortunately it got a little bit altercations in the on pit road, but that's part of racing, and it could happen the other way around. If it was, and it'd be different. So anyway, I think it was just a good hard racing accident, and Kyle saw it later maybe, and who knows? That's my opinion. And I know I'm not driving that race that day, but I've been there and seen that.
I think that Kyle's going to go back and look at that, and not so much that he'll regret what he did, but I think he's going to go, wait a minute. He didn't really do that on purpose. I'm sure that's what he thought. Sure. When you're racing to the line, all of a sudden you get turned around, you think, that guy just wrecked me. But I think once he looks at it, he'll have a whole different opinion about it than he did right there.
Yeah,
as they got out of the car. But because Joey Logano and Kyle Busch, for that matter, neither one of those guys are dirty racers. I don't see them doing anything on the racetrack to wreck anybody or even push and shove people around. They were going for the checker flag. I didn't see anybody do anything wrong. I didn't see even what Kyle did when he came across. He had to do that because they did not expect Brad to back off the gas that early, and so they had to move out of the way to miss him. So
here's a funny thing real quick. Let's take a look at a tweet from Daniel Suarez's grandmother. If you look at this is kind of funny because he says, so this is what my American grandmother just texted me. Actually, I like my amigo Joey Logano, but what grandma says was have a safe trip. We'll be watching you Saturday and stay away from Logano.
Especially if he's around Kyle Busch. Now, if they're together, stay way away from him.
Yeah. Well, somebody else said something about Kyle. So, it's fair.
Of course.
Just hard racing, I think, and a little bit of fight at the end.
Yeah, all is fair in love, racing, and Twitter, right?
We can only hope for another one this week.
Yeah, there might be. It is Phoenix. A lot of beating and banging going on in a very quick race. We got you covered all weekend long. Thanks for coming along for the ride, everybody. Have a great night.